Happy Monday and welcome back to the Wolff Den. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Brittany Brave in the den. Welcome. How's everything going?
Good. I like that we're in a den metaphorically because nothing about this lighting or this vibe feels den-like.
The den
Like
is
I don't feel like
dim
I don't feel
lights.
like I'm about to get eaten by a bear, but who knows? We're just getting started. So
It's our grandparents' den back in the day when the lighting was bad, and that's what we
ah
had. Well, welcome to the show. For the people in the audience who don't know who you are, just give a quick introduction, and then we'll get into everything.
yeah. Hi, people in audience who don't know who I am. I am Brittany Brave. I'm a comedian, actress, host, producer, tiny small woman who's very loud, and I think that's the spiel for now. That's me. Hi.
Well, welcome. Good to have you here. You've done a couple of shows for my family. You did a party for my
Mhm.
mom, and so talk about what you're doing now and how you got into that.
Yeah. I am doing comedy and comedy related things full time now. You can file OnlyFans under comedy related things. I'm kidding. If I were smart, I'd have an OnlyFans. Um, no, I've been performing basically my whole life as acting, dancing, singing since I was a wee one, since I was young and short. The last time I was allowed to be this short, or logically it could be this short. And yeah, it's always been a part of my life performance. I studied theater. I did improv and sketch since like middle school. And yeah, I started doing this stuff full time 3 years ago now. Full time, like full on, like, okay, I'm gonna do it and make this my career. I made that pivot about 3 years ago. So yeah.
And what was the deciding factor in that? I mean, how did you come to it to decide that this is what I'm going to be doing?
Hating my life, to be
That's
like brutally honest. Yeah, like I always loved comedy and performing, and like I said, it was a part of my life for as far back as I could remember. And I just reached a point. I at the time worked as a publicist in the music business, and definitely had some good times and good cocaine there. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I don't want to be. I feel like you're so Matt. You look so corporate, and I do
No,
look so
we're
cocaine.
definitely not corporate here. We had
Okay, good.
and you're not the first. You're not the first guest to mention doing cocaine. So
Oh,
yeah,
so you interview comedians a lot. Okay.
he was a singer, but yeah,
Same.
not the first. Same, close.
Same.
Entertainment
Yeah.
industry. Definitely not
Gotcha.
corporate
Yeah.
here. So feel free to be yourself.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, in that case, no. Different facets of the entertainment business. Yeah. No, I was in the music business. I was a publicist. I had good times, good memories doing that, but I think always in the back of my mind, I was always really tempted to and being kind of pulled to like do my own thing full time, my own art, if you will, full time. And yeah, I reached a point where I was really sick of working in the music business, and I don't think I liked or was happy with a lot of other things in my life. Um, and I was in a bad relationship. It just all kind of culminated. And then I was like, I'm going to throw myself into this thing that's always brought me joy. And it was a no brainer. It was always in the back of my head that this is what I was going to end up doing. It was just a matter of me getting real with myself about it, you know? So
But you grew up in New York, correct?
grew up here. So
Okay.
born in Jersey, have family all in New Jersey and New York, but grew up in Miami and have lived in New York. It's just, whenever I go anywhere else, people are just like, oh, so you're annoying, no matter which way you slice it. But yes, yeah. So I born in Jersey, but grew up down here. I'm a Miami girl.
Yeah, we're born in Jersey and moved down here after college. But the comedy scene in New York is fairly big. So why come to Miami and
COVID.
start?
COVID. Yeah, it is. And New York is the mecca for comedy. It is. It's just the biggest scene, the biggest names, the best crowds, the most to do, so on and so forth. But COVID brought me down to Miami for a very indefinite, but was not supposed to be permanent visit to my parents. And then before I knew it, I was very fortunate to say this. I just got busy in Miami. The scene started to develop down here, and I started to get booked down here, and it's warm, and my mom and dad are here. And fast forward now a year later, I'm still in South Florida. So.
And so, what are the plans for you moving forward? Is South Florida going to be the grounds for you? Are you hoping to go out on tour somewhere? What's your hope?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a very good question. It's like you're reading me for filth, Matt. You're reading what's going on in my life. I don't know where I really want to stay right now, to be totally honest. I've actually been kicking that around a lot. I'm most likely, I think, gonna move back to New York in the spring and just kind of flip that ratio and go back to living there. But now South Florida comedy has become so much a part of my work and my connections and stuff that I don't think I'll be a stranger for too long either. Like I think I'll go to New York and just kind of flip the ratio and down here. Yeah, it's interesting because of COVID, you can kind of be anywhere now as an artist. You really can. I think before a lot of us felt pulled and tied and beholden New York and LA. And I think because they kind of took a hit, it forced other cities like Miami to kind of game in terms of having a comedy scene. So I could stay in Miami because I do tour every now and again sporadically and stuff. So I could feasibly stay in Miami, but I don't know, Matt. You tell me, where should I move back to, New York or should I stay in Miami?
I'm not a huge fan of Miami, actually. I mean, I live in South Florida, but the Miami scene is not really my scene. But I do
Yeah,
love South Florida and New Jersey. I love visiting. I'm going up this week. I was there for Thanksgiving, but
nice.
that's a great place to raise a family. I don't know that I'd want to live there. My sister's been in New York City for forever. She loves it there. I'm not sure she'll ever leave. It's
Yeah,
tough. I don't know. It's hard. I think you should definitely everyone should be where they want to be and live and then figure out how to make that work. Wouldn't that
yeah.
be?
I would love to just leave the planet, to be totally honest, but that's still feasible. The technology's not quite there yet for that.
Yeah, there's not much out there from what I
Yeah.
hear. What about
Yeah. Is there
going
any
off the grid? I mean, how is someone people are talking about technology and privacy, and I'm like, there's nothing private anymore in this world, right? With social media, you have to literally go off the grid and get rid of everything and kind of remove yourself.
I think off social media is off grid. Yeah, I would say. Because even on your cell phone, you can willingly ignore texts and calls. I know I do it all the time. I'm way more present and focused on social media than I am on my phone, my traditional phone. But yeah, I think going off grid would mean somebody who doesn't use social media a lot. Like sometimes it's crazy the stuff I see shared on social media. Like I'm like, I guess it's nice that we live in a time where we're all like having these conversations and we can platform for good. But sometimes I see people share things on social media and I'm like, you do know you didn't need to post that, right? Like nobody was asking you to share that. So it's just crazy.
There's such a
Yeah.
blur too. It's hard to tell what's real and what's people just saying to be funny because
Yeah.
nothing surprises me anymore in this world.
No, I know. And that's mostly Facebook. I feel like I scroll through Facebook and I look at like relatives or other people's posts and I'm like, are they for real? Is this like what they really think? Or like, I don't know. Social media has become the place that people like spill bad news. I mean, like, I feel like you used to call your loved ones when something happened and like tell them and lean on them for support. And now people go to Facebook first and they're like, well, Facebook friends and family, I grew a third head and I'm not sure how it happened, but I think it's from the COVID booster. And Bob, you don't have anybody else you can talk to about this? It's
No,
crazy.
they online it's crazy and but you need it. I have a business, you are running a business, you need online to because it's the best way to get to the masses. So what's your social media strategy and how has it worked for you so far?
I have always felt very comfortable on social media. I've always felt like I like using it a lot. I actually really do enjoy it. Like we all talk crap about it. I just did. But I think it was designed to be a healthy outlet for sharing things and expanding your network and for creativity. And I think like everything else, people took advantage of it and like took it a little bit too far. I also think it was designed to get into all of our psyches and help big companies make a lot of money, but that's a conversation for another time. That's really why it was designed. But I like it a lot. And I can't really say I even have a strategy with social media. Like I just feel like if I feel inclined to share, I share. I like being a little honest, and I don't like shock value, but I do like being honest on there. But I think, yeah, like to what we were just talking about, it's always as a comedian and an artist, people are like expecting you to be honest and transparent and forthright about everything. But then, like on the other side of the token, you have to always kind of check in with yourself and be like, okay, does this need to be shared on social media? Or how do I share this and still make it appropriate for my work? And make like there's a reason behind it, not just me going on a rant or something. So I don't know. My strategy is no strategy. It's just that I post everything about my work, and if something is funny or something I want to show off, it goes up, you know. So
You ever delete something if it gets no likes? And I
all
did
the
that the
time.
other day. I did that the other
Yeah.
day. I was like, yeah, I thought that would really hit, and it bombed.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time. I just did that on Twitter this morning. I compared email notifications I get from Hinge to like, I said at this point, I said dating's on a priority in my life. Like at this point, the Hinge emails, the notification emails from Hinge that I get, I treat like the free coupons at Panera. Like I just like they go to the spam. I just something. It wasn't a good joke. See, it didn't even get anything out of you. It's okay. This is an open mic. It's fine, Matt. It's fine.
But
But it's like I like 40 minutes went by and I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Like it was a dud, so I just pulled it down.
and you
Yeah.
just delete it. And who
Yeah.
knows if you could have left it, and an hour later it could have been the biggest thing in your life. But who knows?
Don't
We
tell
never
me
know
that.
now.
I'm gonna ram my head into the wall with don't tell me that. Yeah, right. Panera could have retweeted it and I could have an
Yeah, who
agent by now.
knows?
So
I,
right.
I
Who
had
knows?
I had Michael Bolton reply to one of my Office Space tweets. Have you had any really famous people reply or
Yeah,
retweet
I
anything?
have. I've had a couple people recently. I had Cher, who I think Cher is hilarious. First off, an icon. Like love her movies, her music, so on and so forth. But I think that she is hilarious on Twitter. She's so
Yeah.
funny. She's just like lucid, and she'll tell people when she's going to have dinner and going to bed or when she just woke up. Like she like gives people like play by plays. And she reminds me a lot of how my mother texts.
Yeah.
Like it's the same, like where it's like all misspelled, half cap, half not. And it's just like, okay, well, I wanted to tell you, and I guess that's that. Bye for now. XO. So I replied to her like a couple months ago, and she like got back to me and we had like a little bit of a back and forth. And she was like, haha, okay, well, let's do lunch sometime, like playing around. But who knows?
That,
So
re-
that's a real one.
that
Yeah.
reminds me of my mom when she was first on Facebook, and she would write on someone's wall, and then she would write Barbara underneath. Like yeah, we know it's you because it's coming from you. Your name is right there. You don't have to
You
write
don't
who
have
that is.
to, right. Right.
You
My
don't have
mom
to
did
write
that.
who that is.
My mom doesn't have Facebook, but there's like online like things after people pass away, like our family or family friends, and it's like online cemetery notebooks, like there's like where you can like leave a message or something.
Yeah,
And my
yeah.
mom every year still leaves them a message. And I'm like, Mom, they
Mm.
can't hear you or see it. She's like, yes, they can. And I'm like, okay, like so whatever.
Whatever gets everyone going, right? Well,
Nice.
I
Yeah.
want to translate the deleting of a Twitter or social media post to actually being on stage, because you have those moments where you do have a joke and you're on stage and it doesn't click with the audience for whatever reason that is.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that?
Begin screaming and kicking and throwing things at the audience, blaming it on them, demanding more money. No. I don't know. You just switch stand up is wild because a crowd is never the same 1 second to the next. Like I've seen people completely bomb and then 1 minute later the crowd's in a different space. Or I've seen people completely have a room. It's happened to me. And then 30 seconds later, they're gone. And that's it. So an audience is constant, it's like a moving target. So you just try, I don't know, you try not to let it get to you too much, and you just find a way to recover, or if all else fails, you just kind of keep it moving. Because I don't know, we realize every little thing that you all don't laugh at. But what I've learned from performing and doing stand-up these last 3 years is that most audience members just they either in general think you're good or you're not. And they usually decide that right away. So whereas we'll beat ourselves up like, well, that one joke about the dog didn't land, like it was awkward, and like 9 times out of 10, unless it's like flagrant and offensive, you guys don't even remember. Just walk away with like who your favorite was, who you didn't like. You either liked somebody or you didn't. So you just keep it moving. You pretend you just keep it moving. Yeah.
Yeah, I love comedy. I love going to comedy, and obviously, but it does feel awkward for me when there's someone up there who's not getting the laughs. You feel weird. I'll admit I basically only go to comedy headliners. Usually at the Improv or at maybe it's a few bigger venues. So I
Mhm.
don't tend to get that as much. When you're doing your comedy, how much of it is I know exactly what I'm going to say, and how much is it I'm kind of playing off the crowd? I'm kind of playing off maybe a joke that might have worked, and I kind of extend it a little bit and use more material from that.
It's a little bit of both, but it definitely is a lot more of like adjusting and switching gears than people think that it is. I mean, you have your written material, and those are kind of like that's like the tent poles in your act that you kind of know what you're going to open with, kind of know what you're going to close with. You know what mostly, if not always, works, so on and so forth. But I think that's like something that I've noticed young comics struggle with. And once you figure it out, the the energy and the rhythm and the fluidity of your sets completely change when you realize no two sets are going to be the same. So if you go in thinking I'm going to do the joke about the dog and then the joke about my mom and then I'm going to close with the joke about the water bottle, whatever, you don't know. Like anything can happen in the crowd. Something might not land the way you want. Something might really land. You might say something off the cuff that it gets a laugh and now it's going to take you in a whole different direction. So I think the difference between like novice comics and like more experienced comics is like knowing go with it. Like stand up is a very, very live interactive art form. It's really not it's not a monologue. It's a dialogue with the audience. So yeah, I always know what I'm gonna like open and close with or the things I want to try out, but it's really letting the audience dictate a lot of it too.
Yeah, and
Yes.
how do you hone your craft as a comedian?
Um, every day you have to either write or get on stage or both. One of my favorite comedians, Chris Stefano, had said like, I think that happens. Like a lot of us start stand up. I'll go back. A lot of us start stand up and like we kind of have a common thing. We're like, oh, we didn't realize we had to get on stage all the time with this, or like we started off kind of hitting open mics and then wondering why we were getting better but not really, and so on and so forth. And one of my favorite comics, Chris Stefano, had said he likened it to when he played basketball and at a time in his life when he wanted to go pro with basketball and how he realized like you don't make it to the NBA by only getting on stage sometimes or a couple times a week. Like you have to do it in some capacity just about every single day. So it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of you finding any way to get stage time. Nothing beats stage time. And a lot of it is like, I don't know, self-discovery, being observant. Like you start paying attention. You spend a lot of time in your head as a comic. A lot. You become almost socially awkward or more introverted, I think. Mhm.
How do you get the stage time down here in a place like South Florida, which is not the same as, I guess it's defined comedy clubs in LA or New
Yeah,
York?
it more or less works the same. So I think it's you're just getting your name out there, and if you're at mics and shows every night and you do well and you build relationships, you start to get booked, and then the clubs have their own way of booking and passing people. It's more or less the same in that sense. And I think recommendations help. Recommendations were a big reason why I was able to kind of get jump started here in South Florida because I had relationships from New York and LA. And when I came down here, that kind of opened some doors for me down here with people. Um, yeah, I think building the same way you just build relationships, you show up, you're good, you're easy to be around, things like that, and then the clubs are all different. They all work very, very differently. In New York, there's usually a very set way that you get past. You have an audition night. The booker basically says yay, nay, or decides where you're at, and that's it. Or you get recommended by a bigger comic who said, hey, she's great, you should start tossing her some guest spots and stuff like that. And then we have the Improv down here, which I don't really know their system. They have their own thing and stuff like that. So it's all different. But I don't think you can deny if you're out every night performing, you're good, and you're not a complete maniac. Or you are actually. It's
You could be.
comedy.
You might be a maniac. You might be
Yeah.
able to be a maniac.
Yeah, Mike, I take that back. Actually, if you are batshit crazy and have very inappropriate behavior, you'll do great in comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did. You had some success here. You were named the new Miami New Times Best Comic. That's a pretty good thing to get if you're down here, right?
Nice little feather in the cap for sure. Yeah, it was cool. I didn't know it was a thing you could get. But it was very nice of them. It was like half reader submissions, people that would subscribe to the paper vote and submit people, and then the other half is the staff reviews. And it was nice. It was nice. It was also like one of the first things that I got in doubt. Like we always battle imposter syndrome as artists and thinking we don't deserve it and stuff like that. And I will say that I have worked very hard in Miami over the last year, and so I got it, and I was like, yeah, go me. Okay.
Yeah, you got to always celebrate the wins. That's, I think.
Yeah.
I want to talk about comedy and I guess, being PC and getting canceled, because there's a lot of that. I kind of have, I don't know that I have mixed feelings. I think comedy is comedy. You go because you want to laugh and kind of be entertained, and that's what it is. I think, for the most part, when you're on the stage, that whatever you say is kind of whatever you say. You make fun of everyone. You're not, piling on one, I guess, group of people in a way. What's your feeling as someone who's on the stage and seeing everything that's going on with comedians these days?
I think that there's a really fine line between cancel culture and people just getting their feelings hurt. I think you're right on the money with, at the end of the day, there's worse things you can do than say an inappropriate joke on stage. You could murder somebody, there's worse things you could do. So if somebody says something that is offensive or off color or whatever the case is, don't laugh, or quietly leave, or don't opt into seeing them again or buying or consuming their comedy. And I think as comedians, I think you can say anything, and I think anything can be joked about. And then the challenge is just finding the way to punch up, is what we say. Just make sure it's smart. It's going to age well. There's a point to it. If you're pushing the envelope, you're pushing it in the right way. There's some commentary behind it. And I think audiences are smarter than we think they are sometimes. Like, I think they know when you're being edgy and you're trying something and people might not be on board. And I think audiences know when they're like, that's just mean. Like, there's no, and there's no room for that. But I don't know. Also, unfortunately, as a comic, like, it feels like nowadays you're not allowed to have any comedic misfires or misses. Like, God forbid something comes out wrong or someone's offended, you're the devil now all of a sudden. Yeah.
Most people should have an idea of who they're going to see, and what their style is. What would you say your style is, and who were some influences on you as you were getting into the whole business?
I'm definitely very what am I? I'm very in your face, very, very raw and no filter, I would say. There's a good amount of raunch in what I do, I think, but I also mostly try to be a truth teller. And definitely as I've gone on in stand-up, I've gotten more comfortable with talking about darker subjects. Not shock value for the sake of shock value, but I like going there and talking about tough topics on stage. Like, I don't really care to write jokes about cell phones and the subway and stuff. Like, that's just not my style. I'd much rather write jokes about like reproductive rights for women and bad relationships I've been in and terrible social and work situations, and find a way to make that relatable to people. And then, yeah, my whole life, I mean, I've loved Joan Rivers and Gilda Radner and Lucille Ball and Amy Poehler, Tina Fey. A lot of them don't even do stand up. Like Tina and Amy didn't even do stand up. But I love George Carlin. I love Sebastian Maniscalco. I love Eliza Schlesinger. I love Tom Segura. I love. I cancel me, everybody. I do. I think he's brilliant and on a different level. You know.
What was that last one you said?
Chappelle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I know the last special, he went there, you know, for sure, and it was his closer, his last special and whatnot. So I think he wanted to go out with a bang and just kind of push the envelope in a way. But I also think people expect that out of him at this point. You know, he's so damn good, but it's like, yeah.
I think he's definitely one of the best, and I think part of it is, you know, he was being raw too. It's you know, he talks real. It's more about storytelling than joke telling almost. And so you know, it's hard. I understand people get upset about it. But you know, you get what you get when you put Dave Chappelle and give him a microphone.
Yeah. And he's been doing it so long that he's passed laughs per minute, and he's like, we know he's hilarious. Like, he's not going to just put something out that everyone's expecting. He's now gotten to the point of comedian that he's a philosopher for us. People literally turn to him to see what he has to say when things happen in the world. So I'm sure that on some level he felt some sort of pressure to kind of go there with the last special. And I think he knew it. For me, I understand how it's touchy, some of the things, and I know he really went there, if you will, but to me, it was written with like satire and sarcasm. Like, he knew how fucked up the jokes. No, like, he knew how much he was pushing it, and I feel like that was written all over his face. And he's like, I know this is gonna make you uncomfortable, and here we go. Like, you know, so if anybody can do it, it would be him. That you would expect to try that. So
I love when he laughs at his own jokes on the stage. It's
amazing. Yeah.
He made himself laugh, which is great. I mean, I think it's, you know, you got to be able to make yourself laugh first.
And he has those moments where he's like, I'm just too damn good at this shit. Yeah. And I think it's hilarious because he is. Like, it's great. Yeah.
And then he takes a break and takes a little swig of this cigarette.
And you see his gears working, which Carlin was like that too. Carlin would pace on stage and have his head down, and you would see like where he was going next, and you would see it like brewing, which I thought was like the coolest thing.
Yeah, Carlin was. I mean, he's such a classic. We lose way too many comedians early. Mitch Hedberg is a favorite of mine who you know, gone way too soon. It's entertainment, singers, comedians though. You have, I mean, John Mulaney. You hear the troubles that he went through. I'm like that. Yeah. I was shocked to hear. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not in the industry, but something like to hear something like that is just shocking. What is it about comedy, and how can we help? Because obviously, there's a mental health component here. What can be done?
I think comedians have this suffering complex sometimes, and I don't really subscribe to it. I think that great comedy can come from dark experiences and trauma and pain. But I think great comedy come from light and love and happiness. Like, you know, you see a lot of comics, they go through a divorce, and they churn out an incredible hour special about love and heartbreak and pain and divorce. But then you also see comics like, I don't know, like I feel like I liked Amy Schumer better when she got married and became a mother. Like, I thought that was like the best of her comedy. You know, and it was at like a most beautiful time in her life. So I say that to say that I think that comedians, we attach ourselves to the suffering. And I think at some point we convince ourselves that it's necessary in order to be funny, or in order to grow and be funny and catch attention. And I don't really think, I live at home with my parents. There's my father in the background. Sorry. I always am like, I'm on a Zoom call, I'm on a podcast, and they're all like, okay, now's the time. We're going to walk in the kitchen and make coffee.
It's got to be great material, I would think, living at home again.
It's I'm losing my mind. No, I'm kidding. It's okay. Yeah, I think comedians need to take care of themselves is what I think it is. I think this can get like very addictive and very unhealthy. And the only thing that matters to you is your laughs and your jokes. And I think like they need to go easier on themselves, take nights off, take care of themselves, don't live on the floor, get a job, live in a real apartment. You know, don't drink like a sieve after every show just because you had a bad set, like things like that. But yeah, I don't know. We think too much, comedians, so we're bound to not be the most mentally healthy. We're
Yeah,
always thinking. Yeah,
Gary Goldman had a movie called The Great
amazing,
Depression. He
amazing.
said, I mean, he talks very candidly about mental health, and it's it's your dad just waved, by
I
the way.
know, no, I know. He's a trip. Yeah,
It's,
yeah, he's a
we
comedian.
welcome all, we love all parents here. So very
Yeah,
raw and open and honest about it, and it was funny. I mean, and
yeah,
I'm someone who deals with mental health, and I'm a champion for mental health, and it can be funny even to talk about the craziness that goes on in the life of people.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
uh,
Absolutely. Yeah. I love talking about dark stuff. I love it. I think it needs to be talked about, and I think the best way to present this stuff is comedy and make it digestible. I really do. So,
yeah, I got a funny story I want to tell you. We were going to see a comedian one time, and I thought I was going to see Godfrey, and
mm,
I went to the wrong, I don't know what, I went to the wrong improv, and we get
mm,
there and it ended up being Mitch Fatel, who is, I mean, his show is 100% sex. It's all it
yeah,
is. And I was thinking, you can't do a show 100% sex.
yeah.
And it worked. It was
You could
crazy
joke about
how
anything.
funny it was.
Yeah, you could joke about anything. It just depends on how you present it and what you're. That's what makes comedians different is the premise. You know, like the topic is dating or the topic is sex or the topic is war or whatever. And what makes us different is the premise. The premise is how you see sex, how you see war, how you see your family and stuff like that. So it can be done. Yeah.
And there's some really good comedians who are mostly talking about the same thing all the time, and some are talking about 100 different things. You never
Yeah.
know. So what do you think makes a good comedian? Like, why is someone out there killing it as opposed to other? Because there's a ton of funny people out there, even on the smaller circuit that people have never heard of.
I don't think it's always really about being funny. I think it's about telling the truth first. I think anybody can be funny, like how you even just said there's a lot of funny people, and a lot of people are conversationally funny, and a lot of people are funny, do funny impressions, or there's silly or whatever, or are decent enough comics. Like they get chuckles, they get laughs, like fine. I think the people who make it and break through are truth tellers, and there's something to say, and they're going to make it a point to write about the things that make people uncomfortable, to write about the things that need to be heard. I also think they get personal, like really personal and really vulnerable. They don't just make jokes about whatever, they really want to say something. So that to me is what I think is the difference. And I think that's what breeds killers and makes legendary albums and specials and stuff. Like you got to be willing to go there. You have to step outside of your comfort zone. It can't just be light and easy one-liners all the time. Like I think the people like Chappelle, perfect example, like Carlin, just being willing to have people boo you or be really uncomfortable, but be like, that's actually really my job. Patrice O'Neal had said that when I watched the documentary. He had said, like, I don't really care if they're humored at my show. And there was like a clip of him giving like a woman $20 and asking her to leave because he was like, this isn't for you. I'm not for you. Here's your money back. Go leave. Like, and I'm like, that's to me, that's what I agree with.
That's pretty boss move up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's sometimes when you're like, the thing is, when you're just another comic on the menu, which is, I mean, I headline shows and I have people specifically come to see me now, but I mean, more often than not, I'm just another comic on the menu. And that's where you're going to run in. That's why those crowds are the toughest, because I essentially, they're not your crowd. That's why they're going to like someone more than you or like you more than someone. And that's also why you're going to run into like silence or weird things when you start talking about certain things, or people might not find you funny because they're not really here to see you. They're just here to see a show. So now they have to like deal with you for 7 to 8 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. And either they're on board or they're not. And if they're not, oh, well, we got somebody right after. Just keep it moving. Yeah. So.
And then you got the people in the crowd who always want to be part of the show. I find that so extremely annoying.
Yeah.
But I've seen some great, like Jerry Seinfeld's great with the hecklers. Mark Norman, is it Mark Norman?
Mark Norman? Yeah.
He does a whole show with the audience. That's it. He just does the show with the audience. It was incredible.
A lot of people have crowd work shows. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I love crowd work, and I've gotten used to it in Miami because Miami it's cutting its teeth as a comedy scene. And they love being a part of the show. They love making it about them. And it's like a level of crowd work and interaction I never do in New York or really anywhere else. But down here, it's kind of like a necessary evil. And if they're going to interrupt me, I'm going to figure out a way to make it worthwhile for me. I'm going to get a big laugh out of them or something. So
yeah, but you have a little bit of experience in the crowd work with your shows, because we had a show where you kind of are interacting with the crowd, and you're doing some tarot card reading, and so it's not just you up there telling jokes; it's you actually having a nice interaction with the show. How'd you come up with trying to figure out how to do that and learning how to do that and saying that's going to be a part of my thing?
Yeah, crowd work is just my crowd work to my many years in improv. I do. Like, I started in improv and sketch comedy. And I attribute improv for me being funny, for me being good at being off the cuff, for my stage presence, for everything. So I think getting used to crowd work and working with the audience was never scary for me, because I started comedy by starting it with nothing and making things up as I went along anyway. So, and then the tarot thing. Yeah, I have a show called Improvised Tarot, which I invented a couple years ago and started, and it's comedians bullshit tarot readings for audience members. And that just came, a friend of mine was giving me a tarot reading in Brooklyn one night, and I could tell he knew nothing about the cards. And he was like, well, this card has swords, so better be careful. Ouch. Like literally, like that's what. And I was like making fun of him to a mutual friend. And then that's when I was like, this should be a show, like where like people come up and pour out their problems, and then comedians just like put their foot in their mouth and try to like give advice and give a tarot reading. And yeah, it's fun. I've actually only recently started working it into my headlining sets. Like, I headlined in Boca last week, and I had the time. I had 45 minutes, so I did 30 of my stand-up, and then 15 at the end. I brought the other comics on stage, and we did fake tarot readings, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I was actually
memorable. People are like, that's cool. That's different that you did that. And I was like, yeah, I have it in my back pocket, so why not? Yeah.
And like I was watching I listened to one of my favorite comedians these days, Nate Bargatze, had a bit.
Oh, I love him.
It's amazing what you can get away with if you're just confident about it, and you just keep doing it. And people are like, wait, I guess they know what they're doing. And this is
the audience has to feel like they're in good hands with you. They have to feel like they're like, and I think that's when bombing hits. Like how you said, like I've seen plenty of people not get laughs. Like I've seen things not work and stuff. And it's only uncomfortable when the person can't handle it up there. That's when people start getting like, but if the person makes a joke and is aware it's not going well, or can just still keep their game face on, that's, you learn how to bomb with grace, basically.
So you got a lot going on. You talk about you're doing comedy. You also do some writing, producing. You have a show, podcast. You do some writing. What's Cat Call? What is Cat Call?
Yeah. It's the feminist side of I have the comedian side of me, and then I have the philanthropist that wants to change the world for women side of me. That it's a platform and a community for women. That I started a couple years ago, and we basically just produce all female content and events. And it's kind of now become this nice conduit between like me and really cool women. And just it's women in music is when I started in the music business. And now I obviously have female comedians that are a part of the network, and lawyers and business owners and publicists and all these different things. So yeah, I'd like to produce stuff through that. And I have a podcast through that called Bad Women, where I just talk to women who are entrepreneurs or have broken the rules or have like this crazy story about getting fired, but turning a company around and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, Cat Call's my little I always say it's like my neglected daughter. So, it's my baby. Yeah. So
I mean, equality is a big issue. Certainly, comedy is not a void of the male female. I feel
yeah.
like and I love all comedy, and I think there's a ton of funny female comedians out there, actresses also that I love. But for some reason, if you start asking me who my favorites are, they're all going to be men. Same with the actors too. So how do we get how do you change that? I don't. Obviously, more headliner women in at events,
Yeah. I
movies.
think I think that's it. I think it's just giving women more opportunities, I think, and start putting women in places, give women a shot, or start booking shows that are a little bit more female heavy and giving opportunities to women, giving more time to women. So whereas people would watch a Netflix stand-up show and it would have 6 guys, maybe now it's got 4 girls, or it's an all-female edition of it with 6 female comics and stuff. So, I think that goes for women, and I think it goes for people of color. I think that goes for various sexualities. Like, I think that's why there's such an onus on giving women, persons of color, LGBTQ platforms and stage time and opportunities. So it's just about getting their comedy in front of people who wouldn't normally seek it out. And that's okay, but it's like I think that's the beauty of art and comedy, is it's like forcing people to consume things that they wouldn't normally consume. And they might enjoy it, or it might make them think and stuff. So yeah, I just think it's continuing to amplify women, give women opportunities, put women in places where men would be, do all female things, and then before you know it, it's not going to be so taboo anymore to see funny female comics, or more and more people are going to say, my favorite are women, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's you're entertaining. It's like, who cares about all that, whether it's a male, a female, what color they are. It's if you're
Funny is
entertained.
funny.
Yeah,
Funny
it
is
could just
funny.
be like listening to the radio. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know. I listen to a lot of Sirius XM comedy. I have 3 channels. I go back and forth. I don't know what any of these people look like. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that adds to the bias of comedy too. I feel like musicians get to hide behind a melody, or it's like how you just said, like it's Pandora or Sirius or traditional radio, where sometimes you never see what your favorite singer-songwriter looks like. You just hear it and you like that song and that's it. And I think for the most part, comedy is a visual art form as well. So it sucks in the sense that how you appear and identify is going to factor into what people think of you, because they're watching you, they're seeing and hearing your jokes. The second you step on stage, they're judging you one way or another, good or bad, whether you're pretty, you're ugly, you're a woman, you're a man, you're gay, you're fat, you're skinny, you're black, you're white. Like, that's already factored in. Whereas, yeah, a band on a radio, you don't know what they look like. You're just like, I like that song. It sounds nice to me. It's a nice melody,
And
Yeah.
there's people who embrace them being big or different
Yeah.
looking. They
Yeah.
they make a whole career out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they own what they are. And a lot of time, I particularly, like, I'm very short. I'm a petite person, and I don't even think we've ever met in person, Matt. So that's why I say, like,
No,
I'm
I
not.
know you're like 5'2".
Oh, that's so nice of you. 4'11".
You're 4'11". Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, on a good day. Yeah. I'm just petite. I've been that way my whole life. And I know I have to find clever ways to address that in my set, oftentimes up at top, because they're looking and they're like, how old is she? Oh my God, she's so short. Is she, and I'm immediately like, I used to talk about living in New York, and I say, yeah, I made it 7 years of living in New York, and people would clap, and I'd have to immediately be like, I know you're looking at me and you're like, she's the same size as the rats. How'd she do it? And like that, just a quick little, just to own, like, I know, I'm short. I look short. I got it. Like, yeah. So.
Well, I'm 6'4", and I'm not.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm 6'4". I get a lot of tall comments, even though there's so many. Right now I don't feel like I'm that tall, but I guess it's all relative.
It's all relative. It's so funny to me how these things matter to people. Like, it's just, I don't think about how short I am ever. Maybe I do when I can't reach the top shelf of something, then I think
Yeah.
about how short I am, but I'm sure when you're tall, you don't feel tall. Or when you're short, I don't feel short. And not until people are like, wow, you're short. And I'm like, this is the shortest I feel when you do this, because I otherwise wasn't even thinking about it. So
Until I'm too big to ride a roller coaster or get in the bumper cars or race
I always
cars.
say that too. I'm like, listen, they let me on roller coasters, okay? Sometimes, at least. So I'm fine. I'm doing fine.
Is that weird? That's a weird question, but I guess if you are old enough but you're short, can you get an exception if you don't hit that? I don't know is there.
I don't know, but I don't know. But my Napoleon complex will come out if I go to get on a roller coaster and they're like, you can't. I would be like, I am 30. And I would like,
Yeah,
so.
that would be a little bit awkward, or even for
Yeah.
the shorter people. There's
Yeah.
people who they're going to go on a roller coaster. It's not a big deal for them, right?
No. So far, I haven't been stopped at Disney World. Maybe they know that I'll kill them if they say anything. No, I'm kidding.
Do you have a performer that you would love to go on tour with? Obviously, there's a ton of them, but is anyone in mind, and maybe a venue that you would love to perform at?
I think I haven't done anything in LA, so I think I would love to get a chance to perform at the Comedy Store and obviously the Comedy Cellar in New York someday when I'm ready and get past there. And obviously some of those bigger places in New York, like the Beacon Theater and like Radio City, like those are all like big goals. I would love to go on tour with like anybody that I mentioned that I really admire, like, Sebastian Maniscalco, like that would be a dream come true, or Eliza, or and I've gotten to work with like Jessica Curson and Judy Gold, who I love and admire, and I've gotten to open for them and work with them and stuff. And it's always very special when you are already a fan and really looked up to those people, and then you get a chance to like perform with them. It's cool. So.
I saw Judy Gold do a one-woman show in West Palm Beach many years ago.
Yeah.
When I first moved down here. She did a great job.
She's amazing. I just opened for her in Boca, and she's just awesome. It was like a master class in comedy. It really was. So
how do you network? How do you network as a comedian? Do you just reach out to other comedians? You just kind of rubbing shoulders when you're in the same area? I mean, how do you because you need to, right? You need to get noticed somehow, and that could propel you.
Yeah. It's a lot of it for the most part is organic. And New York was better for that, I will say. Because New York was it's a lot easier to mingle with headliners because they're all over and they're performing on everything. So it's not unlikely that Mark Norman would drop in on your show and then you get a chance to perform in front of him and have a conversation and he gets to see you do well or whatever. But we are living in an age now where it's very normalized, and at that it's encouraged for comedians to just, hey, go DM that headliner. Go, if you like that person and they're coming to your city, go to the show, even if you're not on it, and wait for them after and say hi. And hi, I'm a comic, I'm a big fan. Or yeah, it's very normal now to just message people that you admire and want to work with and go like, I'm a big fan. And if you need a host when you're down in West Palm, here's my tape, here's my website. I'd love to do it. Thanks. So yeah, I think it's just I think the best networking is organic in anything, not forcing it. Just when I see that person, have them see me do well, say hi, let it build organically. But I don't know, fortune favors the bold. I know a lot of people who have gotten a lot of stuff by being like, I'm a fan and I'm a comic in Miami and I want to do this. And they get it, headliners. They're like, all right, give her a shot. Like, so.
I think, that's one thing maybe that I've been disappointed with in business for people not to sort of realize, hey, they were once in the same position I was and they needed help. They needed that first big break.
They get it.
That's all it takes. I think, some people want to be helpful and some people be like, look, you got to go through the same shit that I went through. It was tough. Right. So, you go struggle and let someone else help you out. It's tough, especially in the entertainment world.
Yeah. It is. It really is. Because there's no playbook for how to make it with this. That's the thing. There is and there isn't. Like there's common things you'll hear people say and, oh, get on stage all the time. And yeah, put yourself in front of the right people and mingle and stuff. But or nowadays you can put a TikTok up and it goes viral and the next month you have an agent and now you've quote unquote made it, so it is tough. So you just try to like do what's right and listen to your gut and just keep working and putting yourself where you think you should be. And yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, it does get a little annoying. I will say it gets a little annoying for someone to find success with something like, hey, I just fell on my
So
ass and it went, and now it's like it went
so
viral.
annoying. Yeah.
To me, the things that I find most annoying also online are the produced videos that are trying to be fun. Like I know it's not real. Like I know you're producing this thing, and they get thousands and thousands of views. It's like, how do people not know that this is staged?
I know. Or like the lack of originality, like just hopping on a trend because something is trending and like it's so far removed from the person who invented it and came up with it. And now you go viral. You go viral just by copying an idea that's already been done, but making it your, like, it's just so frustrating. You're like, why sit here and write original jokes and characters all the time? And that does okay. Or I could just copy this stupid TikTok dance and that'll get me somewhere and do. It's frustrating. Very frustrating.
So, speaking about original, it always, I always thought about when you're writing something, doesn't stuff like seep into you that you've already heard before? So it's when you get people are like, so you hear a lot of the similar stuff told differently. How do comedians handle that? I know Dane Cook got into some heat with that.
A lot of people have. I think, I don't know. There's such a thing as like parallel thinking. So, and that's happened to all of us. Like I've had people confront me and I've confronted people like, hey, I kind of talk about that or I say that exact same thing. I think when it's parallel thinking, and I think when somebody literally is like ripping your stuff off. But I had heard, like, I think Jerry Seinfeld had said, like, if you catch somebody stealing your jokes or stealing jokes, he was like, just part ways with that joke. Like, let them have it. Like, he was like, because like, if that's what they feel they need to do, they're not going to last that long in this business anyway. And honestly, that's what I've done. It's happened twice to me where somebody's like, I talk about something similar. And I was like, oh, and I've since just like completely washed my act of it. Or you just find a way. It's as long as it's happened to you and it's honest and true to you, then there's a way to like, I've heard a bunch of premises. Like I have a premise about liking to date older men, but I know that's a very overdone thing. Or men are like young guys are like, I date cougars or something. And like, okay, so that's universal. Then just dig a little deeper and find how you make it specific to you. Like tell a story about someone you dated or, or something. So it's tricky. And a lot of times too, it just comes down to who got to publish the joke first.
Right.
Who got a special first. That's it.
It's hard to come up with I mean, we've all heard thousands and thousands of hours of comedy and it's just hard to come up with something that no one's ever talked about before. It's generally doesn't necessarily happen. So it's like, how do you make it your own? How do you tell your own story? That I find unique and appealing as I'm listening. You do corporate events, you do private parties. My family's booked you. How's the rest of this year shaping up? Is that what you're focused on for the end of the year, or?
Yeah, I have. I'm working with a company that does these. It's not stand up. It's these corporate Zoom experiences, and then I have a couple of those holiday parties and stuff. December, I am very local to South Florida, only because the next year I will be moving back to New York, and then have Atlanta, Austin, LA, Vegas on the docket as well too. So just kind of focusing December on South Florida and my stuff, and then planning that tour routing. Actually, I tour, like I try personally to hit a new city every month. That's what I try to do. Somewhere I haven't done comedy before. And then,
Well, there's a lot of options out there. You just get in the car and, especially down here in South Florida, there's a lot of different mini like hubs of entertaining. Even down in Miami-Dade, there's a lot of different areas. You got Brickell and you got Wynwood and
all different. That is one thing. It's very similar to New York, because New York is like that. The jokes you tell on the Upper West Side are not going to work in like the East Village and Lower East Side or Midtown where the tourists are. And Miami is like that. Brickell's like a little more affluent and like young bros, but then Wynwood's like artsy hipsters, and then the beach is like tourists and a little bit of everything. So it's constantly a challenge.
Did you
Constantly.
do anything for Basel, Art Basel? I think
I
I saw
did.
you post something.
Yeah, I did some art galleries and parties and stuff like that. I really wanted to do more. I just felt so terribly out of place because I feel bad because I'm like, I love all of this art. I can't support any of it by buying it, but I can appreciate it and tag you on Instagram or something, you know. But I was definitely like a poor fish in a big rich pond.
Yeah, I
But it was
saw you
fun.
posted a photo and with like fart Basel, and someone got all bent out of shape about it in the
I don't even
comments.
read the damn comments. Yeah. Someone was like, "Oh, really original." And I was like, "I never said it like
I think
was
they thought the artist would be offended by it.
oh, maybe they did. I told you I don't read it. And there's like 8 different artists in that entire photo too. So I don't even whatever. Whatever.
I thought it
I'm
was
just
fun.
bitter because
That's my
somebody at
kind of
art
humor.
it's our kind of humor, right? I'm just bitter because a couple years ago somebody taped a banana to the wall at Art Basel and
Yeah,
made $25,000 or maybe even more than
unbelievable.
that. So
Art,
until people value stand up like that, I'm gonna post shit like that. So
yeah.
there's that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really just never know. Art and entertainment is so subjective. You hear the music that's going crazy these days, and art, it's like it's
How do you know
unbelievable.
who did what or what they meant or what? Yeah, whole thing,
You
whole
just
thing.
never know, and so I think that's one of the hopes of artists is that you just never know what's going to hit, and why not me? Why can't I be the next Joan Rivers? Well, I not
Right?
me, not me,
Yeah.
you. Why can't you
Yeah.
be
No,
the next
totally.
Joan
I know.
Rivers?
I was
So
like, excuse me, I'm the next Joan Rivers. Okay.
that
No, I
would
think
so
that's
you never
hilarious.
know. Just keep getting out there. Check out Brittany Brave on socials. Brittany Brave on Instagram. Brit Brave Twitter, Facebook. Brittany Brave Comedy. Check out the link tree. Support cat calls. I think you can even buy the new Brave. What's the
I have
buy
coin. I have
Brave?
an NFT. Yeah. I have a coin. I don't really fully understand. It's kind of how I felt about Art Basel. I was like, I kind of half understand what's happening. But I do have a coin and it is very cheap now because I'm nobody. So if you buy it eventually down the line next year, it's going to give people like access to merch and certain shows and content and things like that. So
Yeah, check her out. We'll get you out of here on the same question we get everyone out of the Wolf Den. You get one person in the world that you can meet and spend the day with. Who are you going to choose, and what are you going to do? They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them.
they have to be alive. My head immediately went to a bunch of dead people.
Yeah, well, we're going to try and make it happen for some of our guests, so it's that would be tricky.
I would say Beyonce because why not?
Beyonce.
And just ask her how she took over the world and how it feels from the top because I love her. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the first Beyonce we've had. That's a pretty big name. So we're gonna put her on the list. We'll make some outreach. I don't know who I know, but I say, I always say that if you have enough money or influence, you can get a meeting and make this happen for
Yeah.
anyone. I mean, I
Make it so
saw,
you make it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd be
someone
like,
told
Beyonce, this
me
incredibly famous comedian wants to talk with you.
Roger Federer gets like $1 million for a day, someone told me that like they put a clock on the second he lands there. Like you got 24 hours, you can do whatever you want. So
Well, that's
we'll see
so
what
wild.
happens.
Anything that important someday. Oh God.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you stand up. Hopefully, you're hitting the South Florida area, and when you get back to New York, got a lot of people up there. I'll send them your way to your shows,
Please.
and
Please do.
keep up the good work. Good luck with the holidays, and appreciate your time here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Wolf Den. Have a great night.